Gabriel. This is Black Forest Comics Weekly Review, episode 39. Yes, I'm told yes. So we're going to go with that, episode 39. If we're wrong about that, it's Aura's fault. So you can write hate mail to her. Alright, so let's get started talking about last week's comics and then this week's comics, as well as whatever little bit of news we can scrounge up that was worthy of us really giving any time to. Alright, so let's talk about last week's comics. Now, this episode's going to be full of more spoilers than usual because there was so much going on in last week's comics that you really have to know what happened in the entirety of the comic to understand what's going on going forward. Mainly referring to DC. DC had their Rebirth series come out last week, as well as Justice League number 50, as well as Superman number 52. And all of these tied together to bring about the Rebirth series, which is again starting this week with Rebirth, Superman, Green Lantern, Batman. They're all getting their rebirths this week. So let's get started looking at Justice League number 50. Alright, so in this comic, this was kind of like Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. A whole lot is going on in here, probably more than what should be going on in one comic. But it's leading up to Rebirth. So, the creative team, Jeff Johns. Here's the thing, I love Jeff Johns. I love his writing. I love his storytelling. I'm sad that he's going to be, I'm happy he's going to be going on to the DC Cinematic Universe and writing for them and actually having a good continuity in the stories in the DC Marvel movies. In the DC movies, I'm glad he's going on to that. I'm sad that he's not going to be writing in the comics. But this one was full of so much just to get ready for Rebirth. So we had, of course, Grail was fighting the Justice League. Cyborg, and Jessica, the Green Lantern, that Green Lantern, Jessica, and Cyborg, Vic Stone, they were trapped inside of a mind of whatever this was. They were trying to be kept safe. They were trying to be controlled by some creature, entity that was controlling all of them. Like I said, there's so much going on. The Green Lanterns tried to capture Grail. They couldn't capture Grail. Grail got the baby that belonged to Lex Luthor and one Superwoman from the Evil Society of Evil League. Those people. She got that child that she had with Lex Luthor from the Evil Society. The one that had Owlman and Ultraman. Okay, that team of evil people. That Wonder Woman or Superwoman, she had this baby that she had with Lex Luthor. Grail killed her, took the baby, imbued the baby with powers from the god Zeharos or something like that, and now this baby has lightning powers similar to that of Shazam. And so she's using the baby as a conduit to literally shoot lightning at the other people. It's crazy. It's a crazy comic. So she's doing that. Darkseid's somehow the power that all the other Justice League members had that they got from Darkseid when Darkseid was killed, they got all these godlike powers. Somehow they get all trapped back in and they come to the baby. It's a lot going on. It's hard to explain everything. We find out that at the very end that there's 3 Jokers. The big reveal of the Joker's name was supposed to be in this comic. Turns out they don't reveal the Joker's name. Instead, they reveal to us that there have been 3 Jokers in the entirety of the DC world. Or maybe just the New 52 world. Because what's happening with the Rebirth... Okay, we'll get into Rebirth in a minute. Also, what happens in this issue, we see Barry Allen separate from the Death Racer and kill Jessica, who was one of the Green Lanterns. And Death is happy with that. The soul has been taken, and he leaves. During that time, when he's being chased by Death, right before Jessica steps in front of him, there's a little bubble that says Barry with a question mark. And that, if you look into once we look into the Rebirth comic, that is the same color context that Wally West is using in Rebirth. So in the Justice League number 50 comic, Wally West was trying to reach him then. So that happens. There's a lot going on. So all that happens, Darkseid's brought back to life through the little child, then is killed and turned back into a baby. Grail disappears and takes with her the baby, and she's going to grow this baby up to be Darkseid, and she's going to show it all the love and nurture that her mom showed her. So yeah, it's an interesting comic, but there is a lot going on, and it takes maybe reading it a couple of times to really understand the entirety of what's happening in that comic. It's leading up to what we're going to get into here in a minute. Secondly, Superman number 52. This is going to have the death of Superman. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is the actual death of our Boy Scout. He dies. Spoiler, I'm about to show you. Boom. He's dead. Now, at the same moment he dies, we see lightning leave him and strike Lana Lang as well as Lois Lane. And if you're looking into the future of DC Comics and you see the comics that are coming out and the super people that are coming out, you'll see that Lois Lane has powers of Superman as well as Lana Lang, and they're using those powers and they get them at that exact moment. So that's the Superman number 52. I chose that because, you know what, I really like Superman. He's one of my favorite characters, and I'm sad to see him go. But as you saw, there's also the Superman from Lois and Clark storyline, who is now going to be taking his place as Superman, because he is Superman, just from another world, with a Superboy. So that's pretty awesome that we're going to be able to see a Superman that's a father. I like that. I like that. Alright, so that's that. So to wrap the DC world up, we have Rebirth, issue number 1, the one-shot. So what's bringing this about is Wally West. Wally West, this is what's going to happen in this DC Rebirth. It's not really a reboot. DC didn't give us a lot of clues, the contextual clues of what was going to happen with this, but from reading it and looking at everything else, it's not a reboot. It's almost a soft reboot, like a rebirth of what happened before, so to say. What happened with the New 52, all that was well and good, but what they're trying to get back to was right before the New 52. So they want to go back to the pre-52 storylines. Jeff Johns has been recorded saying that he wants to return the DC comics to that hope and that light. The same thing he wants to do with the DC movies, he wants to do with the comics. The New 52 series were good. There was a lot of cool introduction of stuff, a lot of new stuff, but it had a darker undertone than what DC used to have. And so that's what they're trying to get back to, is that lighter tone, that sense of hope in their comics. Of course, you had some really great stories pre-New 52. You had Identity Crisis. Then you always had the big cluster mess that was all these other crises of different worlds and different entities. So you had those crises, whatever the plural of crisis is. So you have this New 52, not New 52, I'm sorry, this DC Rebirth. So Wally West is saying that he's been trapped in the Time Force before or right after the New 52 happened, that he's been stuck there ever since. And he's trying to reach out to all these different characters. He tries to reach out to Batman. Batman doesn't recognize him. He tries reaching out to Dick Grayson. He tries reaching out to Boomerang even, to Captain Boomerang. He tries reaching out to Victor Stone. He tries reaching out to Cyborg. He tries reaching out to all these different characters. He even tries reaching out to his ex-wife, to his Linda, I think is what her name was. And she doesn't recognize him. So every time that he gets dismissed and not recognized, he gets sucked more and more into the Time Force, into the Speed Force, till he's dissipated and gone. So what happens is his very last-ditch effort is he's able to go to Wally West, or to Barry Allen, I'm sorry. Wally West is able to go to Barry Allen and say, and he's not telling him, remember me, remember me. He's just thanking him for all that he did, for all the inspiration and hope that he was. And then Barry Allen closes his eyes, and right before Wally West disappears, he grabs his arm and he says, "Wally, and he calls out his name. And when he does that, it breaks whatever hold that the Speed Force has on Wally, brings Wally in, and there's this big emotional moment in the comics where it's just a whole 2 pages of them just crying and holding each other, saying, "How could I ever forget you?" and all this stuff. Now, skipping back to the very beginning, the first person that Wally West went to go see was Batman. And at that exact moment when he went to go see Batman, he got sucked back in because Batman didn't recognize him. There was bolts of lightning because he's flashing through time and everything as this is happening. And there's bolts of lightning. And there's one bolt of lightning that hits the interior cave of the Batcave. It hits the interior cave. Hits the inside of the Batcave, and it embeds something into the cave itself. You hear a sound, or you read that there's a sound. And you fast forward to the end of Rebirth. Wally West is back. Then it fast forwards to Batman exploring where the lightning hit, and he's digging something out. And this was spoiled on the interwebs, but what he's digging out is, I'm going to show you because it's amazing. He digs out the comedian's button from Watchmen. So what Wally West was trying to tell everyone is that there's someone else that controlled and created the New 52. In the epilogue of Justice League number 50, you see Owlman taking the Mobius chair and saying, "Oh, I'm more powerful than Batman. I can control all this." And he tells the chair, "Go ahead and give me everything in the universe. Give me all the knowledge." And right when it does, he's like, "No, no." And he tells Mobius, because Mobius is with them, he says, "He's here." And when they both look up, boom, there's a flash of blue light, and it shows the chair again. The chair's stuck sideways into the ground, and there's blood all over it. And so if you ever watched the Watchmen movie, you saw that whenever Dr. Manhattan would obliterate someone, it would be in a blue light. So we see Dr. Manhattan starting to present himself in Justice League number 50, and then as well in DC Rebirth, there's another epilogue, and that part is all about, it doesn't say it, but it shows Mars, and it shows a clock, or it shows a watch. It says every second is a gift. And yeah. So I'm really looking forward to see how this is going to turn out with the whole introduction of the Watchmen into the DC universe, to the standard DC universe, changing the whole story and the dynamic of what it is. So what I'm going to do in this next week is give you little 2-minute videos every day on the DC Rebirth, because it was done in chapters. So we're going to go look at each individual chapter, 2 minutes a day at the most. Alright, so that's that. Next up, big old event that happened, big old controversy. Captain America, issue number 1, Steve Rogers. So we see Steve Rogers returning as a young Steve Rogers again. And he's doing all this fighting, he's working with S.H.I.E.L.D., he brings back some old partners. Jack Sparrow, no, it's not Jack Sparrow. It's Jack Flag and Liberty Bell? Give me a second, I can't remember. Jack Flag and Free Spirit. Now these are older 90s and late 80s characters that Marvel had introduced that just kind of fell off to the wayside. Nobody ever messed with them again. And so we see them returning to help Captain America and help S.H.I.E.L.D. So they, at the very end, they're going on a mission. All throughout this comic, you're seeing black and white memories of Steve Rogers and his mom. Actually, his mom talking to this one lady with a red band on her hat. It's all black and white, except for this one lady having this red accent on her clothing. And she's telling Steve Rogers' mom about this organization that's about helping women and empowering people. And it turns out it's Hydra. And so this is all a memory that Steve Rogers has. Now, I can't remember who exactly said it, but there was an article, there was an interview, and it said that this was one of the executives from Marvel saying that this issue is going to be kind of a slap in the face, and it's not a clone, it's not a brainwashed Steve Rogers, it's not none of that. This is Captain America. This is him remembering. Now, a lot of people got really upset about this, because at the very end, he declares that he's been a Hydra agent. That he is a Hydra agent. It doesn't say he's been a Hydra agent all along. It just says Hell Hydra at the very end. And it shows him throwing the Flag guy. Forgot his name again. Jack Flag. It shows Steve Rogers throwing Jack Flag out of an airplane to his apparent death. Do we see him ever hit the floor and splat? It doesn't show that in the comic. So we have no idea if he really fell to his death or not. But what we do see is Captain America saying Hail Hydra at the very end of this comic. So, Nick Spencer has been receiving a number of death threats because of this. And I understand where a lot of people are coming from, because this is an iconic character created by two Jewish boys during the highlight of World War II, when their people were being killed and slaughtered by a Nazi dictator. So I can understand how this is kind of a slap in the face. And, I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but it's comic books. If there's anything I know from my years upon years upon years of reading comic books, it's nothing ever stays the same. So even though it may look one way right now, give it time. This is issue number 1. I can't imagine one of my favorite heroes being a Nazi forever. How would he have picked up Mjolnir? How would he have done all these things that he did if he was truly a Nazi? So that's that. Captain America issue number 1. Real quick, because I've wasted a lot of time talking about this. These supposed to be short videos. Divinity 2, issue number 2. Now this, it finds Abram Adams. Now we're going to Russia, and we're trying to talk about how we're going to build up Russia. So Abram Adams, who was the original Divinity, was captured by all the members of Valiant and taken and being held, not being held hostage, but they had him captive, so to speak. And we now have Mishka or Michaela? Mishka. Okay, Mishka is the girl from issue number 1, who was also one of the co-pilots who sacrificed the other pilot to bring herself back to Earth, and she also has the same powers that Abram Adams' Divinity has. So they both have these Divinity powers. She comes back, she wants to make Russia better. Russia's doing all these things, and the Parliament, the English Parliament, sees that, so they send Ninjak and Ninja-El. One big thing that bugged me about Valiant is when they brought back Ninjak, they said it was K because there was other alphabetical ninjas that led up to K. I just like the name Ninjak. They should have just kept it with that and not gave some silly reasons to why. Anyway, you got Ninja-El breaking in, finding out that Russia's been building up this stockpile of gold, and then you see Divinity Mishka come in and just completely obliterate him. And she says, I know you're not alone. And we see Ninjak running away. And Ninjak is describing that as I'm running away, I can feel myself literally forgetting all about Ninja-El, like he never existed. I forgot his name. I forgot his face. And the further I ran, I forgot who he was. And he says, I attribute that to this lady. She made me forget who he was. So we see Mishka has the same divinity, divine, godlike powers that Abram Adams has. And so all the people of Valiant are together talking about it. You got Ninjak, you got the Eternal Warrior, you got Livewire, and they're all saying, you know what, this is a serious issue. And then Abram Adams appears out of his cell that he says, you guys are never holding me. I was here because I wanted to help. And he goes and he tells them, he goes and he tells them, I want to help. And so he goes and he tries to fight Mishka. They end up traveling down to the center of the earth, and she kills Abram Adams. Just totally kills him and leaves him there and goes back. And that's the end of the issue. So that's a crazy issue. So we're really looking forward to what's going to happen. All right. Lastly, for the past week's comics, our kids' choice was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Amazing Adventures from Nickelodeon. This is a one-shot with Carmelo Anthony. Now, I'm not a big basketball fan. I'm not a big sports fan, actually. But it was cool to see an issue just about one sports character. It was Carmelo Anthony. And in this issue, Shredder and Bebop and Rocksteady, they kidnapped Carmelo Anthony and turned him into Carmadello. He's half armadillo, half Carmelo Anthony, and they brainwash him. The Turtles fight him. Michelangelo tells him, I'm your biggest fan. I started your fan club. And Carmelo Anthony snaps out of it, or Carmadillo snaps out of it. And together, all of them fight Shredder and Bebop and Rocksteady. And they save the day. Yay! It's just an amazing issue. It's good for collectors. The Carmelo Anthony special. It's just a one-shot. So check that one out. All right, so that's going to conclude the comics for last week. Let's talk about this week's comics real quick, because we're running out of time. So there's a whole bunch that's coming out this week. You got Punisher number 2. You got 4001 AD from Valiant, issue number 2. You got Civil War 2, issue number 1 starting this week, which I already read, and it's, oh my gosh, it's good. So it's picking up after the Free Comic Book Day issue. So the one where you saw Rhodey attack, where everyone tried to attack Thanos, this is where that's picking up from, right after that. Deadpool number 13, which is a multi-crossover comic. It's going to have a Power Man and an Iron Fist issue, as well as a Daredevil issue inside this Deadpool issue. So that's a Deadpool number 13, and it's $10. Sorry. Death Force, it's a new series by, I can't remember, it's independent, but it's a really good series so far. I didn't get to read it. I read the synopsis. Looking forward to reading it. It sounded like a good series. Independence Day number 4. Paper Girls number 6. Also, Power Ranger Pink is getting her own short-run series. It's going to be 6 issues altogether for the Pink Power Ranger. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Satellite Falling, issue number 2. Also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Bebop and Rocksteady. They also got their own series. It's Bebop and Rocksteady Destroy Everything. It's going to be another short-run series. Also, X-Men 92, issue number 4. So that's going to conclude everything I want to talk about for this week. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other ones, but, you know, that's the gist of it. Yeah. Alright, so let's move on to the news. So, for the news this week, only a couple of things I want to talk about real fast I'm going to hit on is Overwatch. The game dropped. And so far, the reviews have been amazing for it. Of course, you know, with big MMO games, it's all about the multiplayer. It's not so much about the story. There is a story available for it. I have not heard anything about the story play mode, but all I've heard about is the online interactive has been great. There hasn't been a lot of hiccups, and people are happy with it. So I'm looking forward to playing it once I find some free time in life. Maybe when I'm dead. Alright, also, Age of Apocalypse from X-Men. Bryan Singer dropped also. And you know what? It wasn't half bad. Nor was it half good. But it was probably the best X-Men movie so far that's come out of Fox Studios. It was really good from that aspect of being a Fox X-Men movie. So, it's worth checking out on the big screen. The special effects are awesome. Oscar Isaac is great. Of course, James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, they're always amazing. Jennifer Lawrence even does a good job. You don't see her as Mystique as much as you should, but she's there. She's a freedom fighter. It's not normal canon, so don't expect that. But it's good either way. So check it out, and that concludes this issue, or this episode. Thanks for watching. Leave some comments, and we'll see you next week. There once was a man from Nantucket who would say those blasphemous lies. He used to put his stuff in a bucket. Okay, my butt is going to be so numb that I can't think of anything else. This is my birthday sexy suit.